Good morning, everybody. So come back to your breath, let the mind settle. Let's generate our motivation. In becoming a monastic, our motivation is really crucial. And if our motivation is one of the 8 worldly concerns, we want to become somebody. We want to be important or have a certain image. We want everybody to think we're holy or special, and we can sit in the front row. That's a worldly motivation. It's not what's necessary to take monastic ordination. A step up from that is wanting to have a good rebirth, which is considered a good motivation in that it is looking beyond just the 8 worldly concerns and the happiness of this life. But it's also quite limited. Even if we generate samadhi, have rebirths in the upper realms with the beings who have incredible levels of concentration. Still, after that karma ends, we go down to a lower realm. We continue cycling in samsara again and again. The step up from that is wanting freedom from samsara, wanting to get off the merry-go-round. And that's the basic motivation for taking monastic ordination. And this is a very virtuous motivation because we're really seeking to be free of all of the seeming perfections of samsara. It's seeking a state of actual happiness, actual freedom. So we should really work on that, on cultivating that motivation if we aspire to become a monastic. But even beyond that, as Mahayana practitioners, we don't seek only our own liberation because we're very aware of the kindness of all living beings and aware of how much they have helped us. And we want to return that. We want to repay that. We realize it would be incredibly ungrateful of us just to seek our own liberation and forget about everybody else. And so we cultivate compassion for all beings because they're exactly like us, wanting happiness, not suffering. And it doesn't seem right just to work for our own benefit. And so we stretch our mind and our motivation even further. And we seek to attain full awakening, Buddhahood, so that we will have the wisdom and compassion and skillful means and ability from our own side to be of the most effective benefit and to repay the kindness of other sentient beings in whatever possible way we can, either in samsara or especially by leading them out of samsara. But to do that, we definitely need to get ourselves out first. Otherwise, it becomes the blind leading the blind. And so generate that bodhicitta motivation, aspiring for the highest perfect enlightenment. Okay. So it's so much easier to look out for the happiness of this life because it's present. It's the present. And we want to be here now and be in the moment, don't we? So we want to have happiness right now. That doesn't work very well. Seeking a better rebirth is a step up because at least it's not grasping onto our own present pleasure. Because we can see that when we have that grasping activated in our mind, we will do all sorts of harmful actions to get what we want. So aspiring for a good rebirth is a step up. It's very funny. I find it interesting because in Asia, especially lay people, they really sincerely want a good rebirth and want to create causes for a good rebirth. But Western lay people often say, oh, that's still such a selfish motivation. So we're not going to try and get a good rebirth. It's just selfish. You want your own pleasure and samsara. And so they don't even look for a good rebirth, or they jump instantly to, I want to become a Buddha. Right? Yeah. Without seeing that Buddhahood means getting out of samsara. Okay. So it really is a step-by-step process of stretching our mind. If we can't stretch our mind to want a good rebirth, how are we going to stretch it to want full awakening? If you can't get yourself to Spokane, how are you going to get yourself to Delhi? Okay. So let's not be arrogant and say, oh, those people are just seeking a good rebirth. They're practicing generosity just because they want a good rebirth. Who are we to deprecate somebody else's virtue when our own mind is a mess? Okay. However, in terms of our own practice, just striving for a good rebirth is limited. Yeah, because like I said, even you attain deep states of samadhi and you're born in the form and formless realm, when that karma ends, kerplunk, here you are in the desire realm again, and you're going round and around in samsara. And they've actually said that all of us, believe it or not, have generated profound samadhi and been born even in the highest formless realm in deep levels of concentration before. Can you believe that with our scattered mind now? To think that at some time in the past we had perfect concentration. But, well, there's beginningless time, so it probably happened sometime around there. Okay. Why didn't we get enlightened even though we had deep samadhi? Because we didn't cultivate wisdom. We didn't eliminate the root cause of samsara. Okay. So when we really want to get out of samsara, when we aspire for liberation and have the motivation of the determination to be free, or what is often called renunciation, because we're renouncing the dukkha of samsara, then, our project is to generate the wisdom realizing reality. Yeah. And then use that wisdom to cut the root of our samsara. So that's definitely quite virtuous, isn't it? Yeah. Get out off the merry-go-round because it isn't so merry. And have a state of final liberation. But there's a line in the 37 practices of bodhisattvas that says something to the effect of, when your mothers are suffering, what use is your own happiness? And that really gets to me. Yeah. When I was a kid, it was very puzzling to me why I had food and clothing and a nice home, and there were so many other people who didn't. It seemed terribly unfair. And so, in the same light, to work for our own liberation and forget everybody else seems very unfair. Yeah, especially when we consider that our lives do depend on other living beings. Okay. I don't know about you, but I don't know how to grow my own food. Okay. I don't know how to make cloth. I can sew a little bit, but I can't make the cloth to sew. Yeah. Building a residence, forget it. Okay. Making medicine, can't do that. So the 4 requisites for life, food, clothing, shelter, and medicine, I can't even take care of myself. Yeah, put me on a desert island. I don't care how beautiful the beaches are. I'm going to die. Okay. The only reason I'm able to stay alive is because of other beings, what they do. Huh? So it just, In my gut, it does not feel right to just say, ciao, everybody, I'm going to get enlightened and good luck. Okay, and so we generate the bodhicitta then. And that really involves very much stretching our mind. Yeah. One of the reasons, that it's so hard, even the first step up to want a good rebirth, is because we can't see our rebirth. So it's hard to think of the happiness of it. Yeah. Even in this life, we can't see our old age. So some people don't even prepare for old age. Okay. Thinking about liberation also is difficult. We can't see that. Full awakening is like beyond the beyond when we hear what the Buddhas can do. So it's very easy for the mind to say, well, that's impossible. Okay. But I think that long-term motivation is what keeps us going in the practice. And you may be saying, why is she talking about bodhicitta again? We want to learn about the monastic system, Well, if you're going to keep your precepts, many people are they have what I call ordination fever. Okay, they want to get ordained as soon as possible. Okay, they don't know who their teacher is. They don't know what tradition they're following, but they want to get ordained ASAP. And then I asked them, what are you going to do the day after you get ordained? That's a good question, isn't it? When your mind's so focused on, I want to get there, I want to get, then what are you going to do the next day? Yeah, you cut your hair's cut, you change your clothes. Then what are you going to do? Yeah. Are you going to have the same old mind? Probably. That looks at other people and judges them and discriminates them and looks at this and says, I like this, and looks at that and say, I don't like that. But you're expecting that you took ordination and now you're wearing the same clothes as the Dalai Lama, so you should have the same mind as the Dalai Lama by now, and at least by next week. Okay? You've done all the outer things. And then, you have this incredibly unrealistic expectation. And then you get discouraged because I thought I was going to be anger-free and jealousy-free and arrogance-free and attachment-free. And I still have all of those. So Dharma doesn't work. Okay, so I might as well disrobe, go back, have a drink, smoke some dope with my friends, screw around a bit, have some fun. Okay, so what is it that enables us to stay ordained for the rest of our life? It's not just about taking the ordination, it's about remaining ordained. What enables us to keep our precepts when our mind starts going bonkers? Yeah. When okay, I'm a monastic now, but wow, look at that person who just walked in the room. That guy is so good looking. And then your mind starts fantasizing. Yeah. He's Buddha boy. We can have the perfect relationship. Okay. And then you fantasize. You have Dharma and samsara at the same time. Because you've met Buddha Boy, you wake up every morning, you meditate together side by side, following the steps of the path to awakening. And you have this perfect relationship. Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, you know. What's this guy on the white horse called? Yeah, Prince Charming. He showed up. And wow, you know. So we get married, we live happily ever after, having this wonderful Dharma relationship. Yeah. Then our family is happy. They approve of us. We give them grandchildren. Yeah. They write us up in the local, in the Buddhist magazines. Here's this couple with the perfect Dharma relationship. After all, we met on Dharma Date, you know, the online, what do you call it, a dating app. Yeah. Just like in the magazine. Okay. And, you know, so what is it that really keeps us going and developing renunciation? Yeah. Well, we have to have a good understanding of the disadvantages of samsara. Okay. That means meditating on impermanence and death and the disadvantages of samsara. Nobody likes meditating on that. We came to Dharma because we want light and love and bliss. Yeah, don't you want that? Yeah, light and love and bliss. And they're telling me to meditate that all my objects of attachment are impermanent and disintegrate. And in fact, they're disintegrating in this very moment. And then they're telling me that I am born alone and I die alone. I don't want to be alone. And then they tell me that no matter where I'm born, it's unsatisfactory. And then they say, even you get a good status, you're going to fall down again. Ay, that's not why I came here. I want light and bliss with Buddha Boy. Ooh. Okay. You know, so first of all, we need that good understanding of what samsara is so that we want to get out of it and so that we want to help other beings get out of it. Okay. If you're looking for light and love and bliss, go with the ayahuasca people and the psilocybin people, and you know, go back to my generation and go out in the woods. There's plenty of woods around here, you know, with all your friends and have a good time. Okay, we had lots of light and love and bliss. Okay, and then we're still here in samsara. So but I find, you know, what really keeps me going through the ups and downs of samsara, because it's not like you get ordained and then all your problems go away. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry to disappoint you. Um, yeah, people still criticize you. Yeah, you still get jealous of other people. People still tell you off. They still tell you that you're wrong and you're doing things wrong. They still boss you around. Okay. They still think they're better than you. Oh, imagine that. Yeah. So what keeps you going? And you, especially, you still get old and sick and die. Yeah. So you start out with Buddha Boy when you're both young and you look really great. And then after a few decades, if you live that long, yeah, then you have a lot of what my dermatologist calls barnacles. all these things that attach themselves to your face and your body. And then your skin starts looking like your grandmother's or your grandfather's. And Buddha boy looks the same way. What happened to him? Yeah. So what's going to keep you going through all of this? And then you get you get cancer, you get kidney disease, there's so many things to fall ill from. You can't count them all. What happens when you get that? Yeah, then okay, I just want some luxury. As long as I'm dying, let me go to the Bahamas and die. Yeah. What is going to keep you going? Yeah. What if the country falls apart? If this place burns down? Yeah. What keeps you going? What I think, at least what I use to keep me going, is bodhicitta. Yeah. If you have a long-term motivation, very long, then you aren't expecting quick results. And that gives you the ability to work over a long time. Whereas when you want quick results, if you don't get them, you get discouraged and disappointed and you give up. Yeah. If you're working over the long term and you really see, when you read about the bodhisattva's deeds and their realizations, this is going to take a while. Yeah. It's not, you can't get an AP bodhisattva degree. Yeah. It's going to take a while. So, but it's the one valuable thing to do in life. When you think, I've done everything else in samsara and been everything else in samsara, except practice the Dharma. And I've never practiced the Dharma fully enough to get me to awakening. We've obviously practiced something before, or we wouldn't be here today. So, what keeps us going? What is that long-term motivation, that our heart is drawn towards, that inspires us, that helps us to know that no matter what we go through in life, our life is meaningful and purposeful. Okay. And to me, that's the bodhicitta. So, because if you really are working for the benefit of all beings, then you can't just say, screw it all. I want to go to I want to go lie on the beach. I want to go, skiing in the mountains. I want to go skateboarding. I want to go to the Olympics. Yeah. So the motivation is what keeps us going in our ordained life. Mm-hmm. Okay. So let me get back to the questions. Okay. So where's Yenny? Where are you? There you are. Okay. So your question. So she says, I'm considering monastic life as a great opportunity to cultivate my mind to be of benefit to others. However, something scares me. Yeah, that's good. If you notice what scares you, that's good. Yeah, because then you know what you need to work on. If you think it's all going to be, light, love, and bliss, you're going to have a hard time. Okay. Okay, I don't want to lose the capacity to think critically. That's what frightens her. Life in any community shapes you. You end up taking gestures, ideas, even accents from others. Even more so when you offer your obedience and humility, or when you love one idea, or when you love your spiritual master. When everything you read, do, study, and so forth goes in one direction, could you finish blinded? And that's a form of absolutism. Okay, good question, isn't it? Very good question. So, whether you become robo-Buddhist, yeah, that is, it depends on your aspiration. It also depends on which spiritual mentor you follow. Okay, so it's very important before you ordain to really suss out the situation. And it's not something that you can do, don't go about it with a checklist. This is a heart connected thing, okay? So if you have some sort of aspiration to ordain, yeah, what's really important is to figure out which Buddhist tradition really speaks to your heart. Yeah, there's many Buddhist traditions, many ways of teaching and practicing the Dharma. Which one speaks to your heart? What kind of practice speaks to you? And you can see through doing that practice helps you grow. And who is the spiritual mentor who is teaching you that practice? So I think these things come together. At least they did for me. Okay. And when I came into everything, I didn't know anything. I knew zero, less than zero. Yeah. I didn't know the difference between Buddhism and Hinduism, let alone different Buddhist traditions, any of that. What I did know is I had gone to a few spiritual groups. They were nice. I heard different lectures and teachings. Nothing really did much to me. But when I went on one retreat, this is where the lamas, the first thing they said was, you don't have to believe everything we say. That for me was a big, oh, now I will listen. Yeah. And so I listened. And they said, check out what we say. Think about it. Does it make sense logically? Do the practice. See if the practice helps you. So I did that. I didn't know Tibetan Buddhism, Zen, Theravada, Hare Krishna. Well, I knew what Hare Krishna was. That didn't impress me. But, I didn't know any of these things. All I knew is when I started examining what these spiritual mentors said, it made a lot of sense to me. It answered the questions that I had had for years and years about what's the meaning of my life and what's the purpose of my life. And when I did the practice, it really helped me. These were the teachers who taught all that. So I didn't go through any formal anything going to request them, Michelle, please be my teacher. All I did was kept showing up because I didn't know anything about, this person becomes your teacher if you take this from them. I didn't know anything. All I knew was that this rung true and it helped me. So I kept going back. And those were my first teachers. And they're still my teachers. Okay. And then they sent me to study with other teachers, some of their teachers. I don't think they sent me to study with those other teachers to get rid of me. I'm hoping. I think it was because they knew that I could benefit from studying with these other masters. And so I just kept going. I had no idea of Gelu, Nyingma, Kagyu, Sakya. Yeah, I didn't know any of that. I just knew that this rung true and this helped me. And I kept going. Okay. Now, did I become a robo Buddha, a Buddhist, I should say, because, thankfully I hadn't read too many New Age magazines before I met the Dharma, because the New Age magazines were all talking about surrendering to the Guru. Okay. And they still are. And you used not, I never heard that word surrender to the Guru in the early years when I was studying. Now sometimes I hear it. Yeah. It's not about surrendering to the Guru. If you do, I think that's may be the core of your fear, that you just say, everything about me is wrong, so I surrender everything and you remake me, and all I have to do is think like you do and do what you say, and that's going to make me all well again. Is that kind of what you're afraid of? No? Okay. What are you afraid of then?
Maybe you begin with a very clear thing when you take the decision, and this is my master. But when you begin to take the teachings, or maybe when you begin to the monastic life, maybe you need transform you, and you could change your mind and for the good place, but maybe you change your mind and lose your ability to be critical, to be critical, and because you begin understand and love the people who you are, and you love your teacher, and you love the teachings, and you left your critical mind because you only read about that themes. I read for, I don't know, many topics, and when you begin to take this life, only have one way, and left other topics, other questions. For example, I don't know, physical, chemistry, I don't know, other topics. In my life, I take many topics, and because philosophy, I take about topics about the physics or the chemistry or other topics, and I feel that that topics help me to grow, because I maintain my critical mind. Okay, it is good, that is not good. But when you only read, only listen, only good things for one way, maybe you lost your critical mind.
Okay. Okay, so it's going to take me a while to answer this. Yeah. I think what happens if you have a good teacher, your teacher is going to emphasize the importance of thinking critically, first about the Dharma, okay? Because if you become a monastic, you're kind of deciding inside yourself that the path to awakening is the most important thing in your life. Okay. And so if that's the most important thing, you're going to direct your energy towards that. And if you have a good teacher, your teacher is going to make you think very critically about the Dharma path and not just say, I believe, you know, my teacher is a Buddha, so I just stop thinking and I believe whatever my teacher says. Yeah, if you have a good teacher, that's not going to happen. Okay. You personally, some people personally want that. They want to stop thinking. They want somebody to kind of tell them what to do and what to think. Okay. So some people are like that. Some people benefit from following a teacher like that. Okay. I'm not one of those people. I would go bonkers. Okay. But, you know, people are very different. Now, is your Dharma teacher going to tell you to go study physics and chemistry and biology? If your teacher is Tibetan, probably not, because they don't know what those subjects are. If you have a Western teacher, they're probably going to emphasize still studying the Dharma as most important, but that doesn't mean you can't learn other things. Okay, so if you can keep your mind focused on the Dharma and you still want to learn other disciplines, that's okay. And many of those other disciplines can help you in your Dharma studies. Okay, so I know for me, I did some things about mediation, conflict resolution, nonviolent communication, you know, these kinds of things. And I found them very helpful and uh, very much integrated with my Dharma practice. Okay. How about having our physicist over here talk a little bit maybe about how science helps you with your practice? We have two physicists. Okay.
For me, it goes back and forth in that, you know, I can see that it's the worldview that I'm coming from. And so sometimes I really need to make effort to say, okay, let me try to push against physics personally to try to make more space for things that I don't have as much in my worldview from the Dharma. But there are other times where I can really draw parallels. And if I struggle with seeing, you know, the reasoning, especially with, you know, okay, in infinite rebirths and things like that, I can start to say, well, this is something that maybe word logic doesn't work for me, but I know mathematical logical tools that I can start to apply for this, and I can start to make space and see, okay, this is something I can accept.
Yeah.
And I can see things in my physics worldview. You know, string theory predicts that there's actually 11 dimensions, and, you know, there's the 3 macroscopic spatial dimensions we see, and there's these 8 curled up little dimensions you don't see. And this is something that is like accepted and in a way makes no sense whatsoever. So the hungry ghosts in Hell Realm seem at least on par with that. So
yeah.
So in that way, I can see that, okay, what that knowledge is, sometimes it's the logic and sometimes it's just looking at the worldview. But
Yeah.
you know, sitting down and learning more about thermodynamics doesn't necessarily help me be a good person. So that's where it's some discrimination about what to study.
Yeah. Yeah. Our second physicist, do you want to add to that?
I found many tools very useful for me when I'm trying to figure out what is emptiness.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about the dimensions too, and about the wave formula, about the possibility. So many things for me match and make sense. And I think those tools from physics make me to understand even better some teachings, because it has sense now. I mean, I see things clearer. If I didn't have those tools, it would be in other completely different way to understand them. So for me, it's very, very useful to have those critical things. And I don't know, I know maybe we can prove some things in physics, but have the possibility to have that thing in the real world and then try to match in an unreal world, it's for me, it's easy to understand.
Yeah. I studied history. I find history, and I like studying sociology, history, liberal arts kinds of things, because I find that helps me understand the mind and how people behave, either as individuals or as groups. Some people may study neurobiology or things like that. And then for them, it's looking at, okay, what comes from the mind, what comes from the brain, what's the difference between the brain and the mind. So I think, living in the modern world, it's very helpful to know something of other disciplines. And this is fine according to our bodhisattva vows. What the bodhisattva vows do caution against is getting so interested in other things that you neglect your Dharma practice. That becomes quite dangerous. Okay. But, learning other things is certainly okay.
I want to say at the Abbey, we watch a lot of documentaries about social issues and what's going on in society and history. So we really try and the environment. So we stay connected in that way. It's important to stay connected to society, but to like watch wholesome things, like educational things, not just entertainment.
Yeah. Yeah, so, climate change, ecology, things like that. One of our nuns is very interested in that. So her BBCs often center around that. Yeah, right? So, yeah, we don't close ourselves off to the world because we have to be able to communicate with the world. But we have our priorities very clear. Yeah, that learning all this other stuff is helpful to our Dharma practice, but it's not going to replace our Dharma practice. And we certainly need practical skills, how to fix things, how to build things, all of this, if you live in a community, is very needed and very helpful. And when we were building this building, Chenrezig Hall, that there's the thing out in front. What do you call it? The thing out in front, that thing that says Chenrezig Hall on it. Okay, so that before it got attached to the building was just two pillars and the board that said Chenrezig Hall, and that was down on the ground. And our contractor, and his helpers were going to put it up. And so we all gathered to watch this, and we started talking about, okay, is it now Chenrezig Hall? Now Chenrezig Hall exists. It has a name. Did Chenrezig Hall exist before they put up the sign that said Chenrezig Hall? Yeah. When did Chenrezig Hall come into existence? What exactly is Chenrezig Hall? Do you remember that? We had some very good discussions about that. and at the same time really appreciating the contractor and the people whose skills were putting that sign up, knowing that we couldn't do it. Yeah. So, yeah. So you learn like I was saying yesterday, you need the skills and the knowledge of multiple people, and different people have different interests. Okay. That answer your question? Okay. Yeah. Okay. But I want to come back to this thing too about how you relate to your spiritual mentor. Yeah. Do you, because sometimes we have the idea that that all the monastics are like cookie cutter personalities. Yeah. You're shaking your head. No. What makes you say that? Yeah. We have very different personalities. So it's not that becoming a monastic, you're kind of the things you're interested in totally changes, and you're a totally different person. It's not like you just kind of surrender everything and I stop thinking for myself and I just do what everybody else here is doing. Okay. The Buddha was very specific about we need to have think about things with a critical mind, using reasoning and logic. It's not about blind belief. Okay. Now, like I said, some people have that tendency. That may work for them. Okay. But other people, they like to think about themselves, think for themselves. And, Lama Yeshe, when people were always running to him, Lama, what do I do? Do I go here? Do I go there? Do I do this? Do I do that? And he would look and he would say, next time they're going to ask me where to go pee-pee. Use your own wisdom, dear. And, that's why I say our spiritual mentors should be guiding us to develop wisdom, not dependency. Yeah, we should, because our teachers are not always going to be there. Yeah. And if you're running around just saying, what do I do? What do I think? Please do a mo for this, do a mo for that, do a mo for the other thing. You are not developing your own wisdom, And then, our teachers don't live forever. And when they aren't there, what they taught you has to be in here so that you can still function as a Dharma practitioner. Okay. But, okay, so to talk more about this thing about the spiritual mentor, because there's so much misunderstanding about it in Tibetan Buddhism. Yeah. So you'll notice I use the word spiritual mentor. Sometimes I'll use spiritual master. I don't tend to use the word guru very much. Guru is a correct term for our spiritual mentor. But in the West, guru has a certain kind of flavor to it. Okay. And you hear the term guru devotion. Okay. It's a very popular term in Tibetan Buddhism. Guru devotion. And if you've read enough New Age stuff, and then what the Tibetans say, your guru is the Buddha. My guru is the Buddha. I'm so devoted to my guru. And then you're relying on your guru to tell you where to go pee-pee. Okay, because you can't decide. The Tibetan term, actually, Lama Tenpa, if you translate it, You know, Lama means spiritual mentor. Geshe, actually, the term Geshe, if you translate it directly, it means virtuous friend. Okay, so this is a virtuous friend. And Tenpa means to rely or depend on. Okay, so how do we rely on a spiritual mentor in a healthy way? To me, relying on a spiritual mentor, just those words, has a very different meaning than guru devotion. Does it to you? Yeah, I hear guru devotion and I think of, devotion. I just am devoted and they run my life. And the guru is magical and mystical. Okay. And it's how do I rely on a spiritual mentor so that I can help the Dharma exist in the world, so that I can help my mind gain realization, so I can benefit sentient beings. Yeah, it's not about how do I become a groupie. So like I say, there's different teachers who do things different ways, different people who have different aptitudes. Okay, so I'm not criticizing and saying there's a whole diversity and you have to figure out what you are. But, I found His Holiness, the Dalai Lama's advice, always quite impeccable. And he really emphasizes having your feet on the ground and being practical and analyzing things with your own wisdom and developing your own wisdom. Yeah. And in that light, he talks about 3 levels of spiritual mentors. So this is important for people practicing in the Tibetan tradition to understand. Well, actually, in all the traditions. So the first level is your Vinaya spiritual master or spiritual mentor. So this is the person who teaches you the 4 truths. Yeah, who you learn about dukkha, its cause, the cessation, and the path from. And the person who gives you refuge in the 5 precepts, the person who gives you your monastic ordination. They are all, we could say your Vinaya spiritual mentors or your fundamental vehicle spiritual mentors. And those people we regard with respect. Because they know something that we don't, and they've practiced longer than we have, and they have a good ethical conduct. They have knowledge of the Vinaya, knowledge of the 4 truths. They can teach us well. They can guide us well, and so we look at them as representatives of the Buddha. Okay. And with your Vinaya master, when you mess up and you break precepts or you're acting in an unbecoming way, your Vinaya master will comment on it and train you. But also, if your Vinaya master makes mistakes and breaks precepts, it's okay for you to bring that up to your Vinaya master, because you're helping each other to keep the Vinaya well. Okay. So that's the first level, we could say, of spiritual master and how you rely on that kind of spiritual mentor. Second level is your bodhisattva spiritual mentor. So that's someone who teaches you how to generate bodhicitta. They teach you the 6 perfections. Yeah, the 4 ways of assembling disciples, all of that, okay, the whole bodhisattva practice. Those people we regard as emanations of the Buddha, okay? That doesn't mean that you sit and stare at them and go, wow, you're an emanation of the Buddha. Okay. It means that because they're teaching you the bodhisattva practice on how to become a Buddha, they're kind of representing the Buddha, you know, or you could say you regard them as emanating from the Buddha to teach you that practice. Okay. It's only in Tantra, and especially in highest yoga Tantra, that you regard the Guru as Buddha. Okay. The reason for that is in Tantra, you're trying to develop pure view, seeing all sentient beings as the Buddha, seeing the environment as a pure land. So it would be quite strange to see all sentient beings as the Buddha, but not see your spiritual mentor as the Buddha. Okay. But Tantra is not an easy practice. We should not be starting out with Tantra. Yeah. And I think this often becomes a problem nowadays with Buddhism in the West, is that, teachers come through, they give a talk on Thursday night, and the introduction to the initiation on Friday night, the initiation on Saturday. Maybe you get some teachings on Sunday, maybe you don't, and then on Monday they go to another place. So you never really understand what Tantra is about. You never really make that connection, a deep connection with a tantric master. And because people don't understand Tantra very well, and they regard the Guru as the Buddha, yeah, and everything the Guru does is perfect, then people develop all sorts of misconceptions. And His Holiness says that that can be like poison, saying that. He says, if you're, the point is, okay, why do they teach regarding your spiritual mentor, either as an emanation of the Buddha in the Bodhisattva practice or as the Buddha himself in the Tantric practice? It's so that when you receive teachings, you listen with the ears of somebody who's listening to the Buddha. If you look at your spiritual mentor as just Joe Blow, who doesn't really know much, but they know a little bit more than you do, but they're really an average, typical, unruly person. If you look at your spiritual mentor that way, then you're not going to take whatever they teach very seriously. Yeah. You're going to think, who are they? What do they know? So why should I listen to them? Yeah, okay, some of the things they say sound good. I'll practice that, but then I'll invent the rest of it myself because, they just know a little bit more than me. Okay, that's not a good attitude. You're not going to learn much that way. You're not going to improve much that way. Yeah, if you really listen with the ears and you recognize that, if the Buddha were here in person, the Buddha would be saying exactly the same thing as my spiritual mentor is saying. There's no difference. So you listen with the ears, like, oh, I'm really listening to the Buddha Dharma and I want to learn this. Then that makes the whole difference in your practice. Okay, rather than I'm listening to Mickey Mouse. Yeah. Mickey Mouse can be there and, say the same thing as the Buddha. But if you're looking at them as Mickey Mouse, you're not going to be hearing the Buddha's teachings. You're going to be hearing Mickey Mouse teachings. Okay, so that's one of the chief reasons for that. Now, this is based on having checked out the qualities of your spiritual mentor beforehand. Okay, so not everybody who has the title teacher or spiritual mentor, whatever it is, has to be your spiritual mentor. Not all of them have the same qualities. Okay. And the person who is your spiritual mentor, your best friend may not be attracted to as a teacher. The person who your best friend thinks is an exceptional teacher may not do anything for you. A lot of it depends on previous karma. Okay. So it's not that everybody who has a title, and everybody who sits on brocade, and everybody who has a yellow hat or a red hat or a black hat or a sun hat. Yeah, we're the sun hat sect here. Okay. Not everybody has spiritual realizations. Not everybody has all the different qualities listed in the sutras and tantras that we should look for in a teacher. Yeah, but we have to do the screening ourselves and know what those qualities of a good teacher are, and then look for those qualities in people. Okay, and you don't do it by saying, okay, here's a form, please complete it, and then I will assess it and see if you qualify to be my spiritual mentor. It's not like that. Okay. You have to come with a feeling, with a sense of humility. Yeah, if you don't have any humility, you're not going to learn anything. But being humble doesn't mean you give up your intelligence. Okay. When they talk about surrender, it means surrender your arrogance, surrender your anger, surrender your ignorance. It does not mean surrender your ability to think for yourself. Okay, it does not mean surrender your wisdom. We have to develop wisdom. Okay, so this whole way of how you regard the spiritual mentor depends on first you choosing your spiritual mentor according to having checked them out. Does this person keep good ethical conduct? Yeah. Do they keep their precepts? Yeah. Do they know the bodhisattva? If you want a bodhisattva teacher, do they know the bodhisattva path? Do they have some, know how to meditate? If they're teaching you how to meditate, do they know how to do it themselves? Do they have the correct view of emptiness? Do they know more than you do? Yeah. Are they kind and compassionate? Or are they looking to be somebody? Okay. Are they looking for donations? Are they looking for fame? Or are they kind? Do they really care about their disciples and the spiritual progress of their students? And do they have fortitude and patience? Because sometimes as students, we are totally obnoxious. Let's face it. And, and so we need teachers who are not going to look at us and say, oh my God, look what this one did, like throw them out. They're just like, ugh. Yeah. No, we want a teacher who can really see our genuine spiritual aspirations and is willing to stick with us through all of our obnoxiousness. This doesn't mean it's okay to be obnoxious. Okay. This is not permission to be obnoxious. Oh, I know my spiritual teacher is so compassionate, so I can do whatever I want. No, you create karma. Yeah. Your teacher forgives you, your teacher doesn't. You still create karma. Okay. So all of that Before you ordain, you really need to be clear in your mind, who is your teacher? Which tradition are you following? What kind of meditation really helps your mind? And that has to be the tradition and the teacher that teaches that kind of meditation. That does not mean that you only learn that from your teacher. Okay. You get grounded, in the general Buddhist view. And you may find one particular tradition speaks more to your heart than another one, and you stick with that. But you can also learn things from other traditions. Okay. I think it's good at the beginning to get grounded in one thing and before you start expanding. There's some people who do what I call the 31 flavors thing. Okay, you go to this guru, then you go to that one, then the other one, then this one, then that one, and you take a little bit of teaching here and there from everybody. Okay, but you don't really settle down and practice and become a student of a teacher. You go around and collect things. Okay. But once you have some grounding, then when you study other Buddhist traditions, you can understand them in a very different way. If I just use a personal example, I remember my freshman in college, we read some Zen stuff, in one class I was taking, I think Zen flesh, Zen bones, or something like that. I had no clue what Zen was talking about. I read this and, what's the sound of one hand clapping and what's the, okay, the sound of two hands clapping on the debate ground, that I can get. But one hand clapping, I can't get. I was like, I don't understand this. Yeah. But having studied Tibetan Buddhism, when I come across some of the Zen koans now, there's a little bit more feeling for them. Yeah. And although the Zen they have sometimes the 4 great vows, some have the 5 great vows, I can understand those now because of my background in the Tibetan tradition. Tibetan tradition's still mine, mine. No, it's still my basic one because it's the one that makes the most sense to me. Yeah. But also I've done a lot of reading and studying of the Theravada tradition, and that's really helped my practice a lot. Okay. And so, when you have some grounding, then you can really see the beauty in the other traditions and take it in. Yeah. But at the beginning, if you're just, window shopping and trying all 31 flavors, but not having any ice cream cone, then that's what you get. Okay. Any questions about all of this?
About the Tantra guru or spiritual mentor relationship, it seems like that came about in a very different society, different historical time, where the student would kind of live with their teacher for many years and they get very personalized instructions. But nowadays, it's like you said, somebody drops in, given empowerment, is out the next day. And it's like, how much can people really benefit from doing those practices without having a very close relationship with a spiritual mentor?
Yeah. And beyond that, that's a very good question. Beyond that is how can people benefit from Tantra without having a good foundation in the general Dharma? Yeah. If you have a good foundation the four truths, bodhisattva practice, all of this. And saying something as a foundation does not mean it's easy. Okay, we think, oh, foundation, basic, it means easy. No, it's not. If you have a good foundation, then if you take tantric empowerment and do that practice and receive teachings on that practice, then you'll see that the whole path to liberation is contained in your sadhana. But if you don't have any awareness of the four truths or what bodhicitta is or any idea of what emptiness is, then you're reciting all this stuff and you're visualizing, now I have 11 heads and 1,000 arms and I'm white and I'm emanating bodies, and you're visualizing all this stuff. And it feels good if you can concentrate a little bit. But that's about it. And you don't understand how that is working to transform you. Yeah. And then you get, what you're doing is you're visualizing yourself as somebody else before you really understand who you are right now. And this is why I think doing the 4 foundations of mindfulness is really very, very good. Then, okay, you understand what my body is right now. Then in Tantra, when you generate with the deity body, you look, ordinary body, deity body. What's the cause of an ordinary body? What's the cause of a deity body? Then you understand what Tantra's getting at. Okay. But otherwise, you just visual, one day you have your Chenrezig, next day your Tara, next day your Mahakala, Then it's like, yeah. Lama Yeshe used to ask us all the time. He used to say, what's the difference between visualizing yourself as Chenrezig and visualizing yourself as Mickey Mouse? Yeah, what's the difference? Why not visualize yourself as Mickey Mouse? Mickey was a nice guy. He was a happy guy. Yeah, you have big ears like mine. Yeah. You chant your mantra, M-I-C-K-E-Y-U-S. Yeah? What's the difference? You watch Mickey Mouse. Remember when you were a kid? You watch, well, some of maybe you are maybe too young. You watch the Mickey Mouse Club every day. Do you remember that? Yeah. And you put on your musketeer hat and you sang, there was some song they sang at the end before. Sorry to see you go. We'll see you tomorrow. Something like that. Remember that? I can't remember the exact words. I'm sure you can Google it. And then we would all sing M-I-C-K. Yeah. So what's the difference? If it's just a question of visualizing somebody with different shaped heads and different arms, is it the visualization, who you visualize yourself as, that gets you out of samsara? Yeah, but Mickey has great qualities. He's cheerful. Mickey has anxiety issues? Really? But Mickey has many, so he has, No, he has Buddha, they have Buddha boy and Buddha girl together. Okay. So, yeah, so what's the difference? So this is a good question when you really think about it. Lama used to ask us these very pithy questions. Okay. So, so this is, think some more about this. If you have more questions, feel free to we could do one or two questions now. Otherwise, write them down. I'll talk about them later. And I haven't forgotten all the other questions, so just be patient. Yes.
Kenru has a question. Please
Yes.
go ahead.
Hey, Venerable, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can hear you.
Okay, my question is, I think it's true luxury to have Buddhist international buffet in Singapore. So I become picky on food. So it's like, what kind of teachings I want to take in for my practice and so forth, and then ended up like some of the practices in Vajrayana, like tantric, I have a rejection. So how can I actually find a balance, and how can I actually proceed right on the beginning path to understand better instead of reject it, at the very start?
Right. Yeah. This is, I think, part of the difficulty that many people encounter when they get into Vajrayana too soon is after a while, they go, what is this all about? Okay. Vajrayana is actually quite profound when you understand it. So your question is a good one. How can you go back? And you're asking, how do I build a foundation and the walls before I put the roof on? Okay. So do some practice regarding the four truths. Yeah. Learn the bodhisattva vehicle. If you're studying the Lamrim, yeah, the initial scope, the middle scope, yeah, do some serious practice with those. And like I said, also the advanced scope with bodhicitta, learn the correct view of emptiness. Yeah. And then when you have that, some understanding of that, then when you go, you look back on, the little that you knew of Tantra before you got confused, you will understand that much better. And then you can come back and understand the tantric practice again. Okay.